seat. And I think one of the things we've mentioned to you before is that we love and want more practitioners as well in the hot seat. So I'm delighted that Shane, where are you? How are you doing? Are you coming off? There he is. Look, there he is. We've seen him many, many times. I've got a PMO flash mob thing above your head because that's how we first met when you came along to a flash mob, and I cannot remember life of me remember when it would have been, but it's a long time ago. Based on some of the pictures that I've been seeing as I've looked back at some of the previous flash mobs we've done, Shane looking very young, but yeah, we've known each other a little while, haven't we, Shane?
Yeah, I think it was the one in the boat, the first one I came to in when was that? 2015, maybe, I think it was.
Oh, I see there. We've been going a while. So Shane, not only a long oh look, there you go, still looking good, Shane, eh? There you go. And yes, and sorry, I've dropped the E. You know, it's the 90s all over again. So Shane, you mentioned last time you were on Hot House that you just snuck it into conversation that you had finished an apprenticeship. And one of the things that I'm really conscious of is that we've not talked a lot actually about apprenticeships, because I think many people, certainly of a certain age, think it's still one of those things that you do when you finish school before you start working, which is not the case. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions about your apprenticeship, which you've successfully done. So can you just tell us a little bit about what apprenticeship you actually did?
Yeah, no problem. So I did the level 4 associate project management apprenticeship. And so I did that. And I'd also included the APM PMQ exam. But my understanding is now that going forward that the APM PMQ is only included in the level 6 degree apprenticeship one, but I did the level 4. So
And how come you decided to do an apprenticeship like that?
well, I thought obviously working as a PMO, I work with project managers daily, and there's a lot of project managers in the team. So I just thought it's a really good opportunity to learn and do something that's practical. So like the one thing that I really liked about it was the practical learning. So and some of that, a lot of that was covered in my role as a PMO, but then there's other parts that I did have to work more closely with project managers. So
Can you
um,
talk a little bit more about maybe one of the practical elements so I can understand what you mean?
um, so for example, one was on stakeholder mapping as an example. So you had to show how you've done stakeholder mapping within the workplace and have to provide relevant examples. So that could either be done on a paper, a PowerPoint presentation, or other times we have like professional discussions, they were called, where you would talk through your experience. So
Okay, all right. So wind back a bit then. So how on earth do you even get to have the opportunity to do an apprenticeship? I mean, it's not something that you do necessarily straight after school.
yeah.
You're doing it while you're working. Yeah, I mean, is this something that your organization has kind of sponsored you to do, or?
Yeah, so fortunately, the organization I work for, Queen Mary University of London, they really promote the staff to encourage to do apprenticeships. The thing is, with most organizations in the UK pay into it's called the apprenticeship levy, and that money's set aside for um, employees to do apprenticeships. But the only thing is that your employer needs to give you 6 hours per week that you can dedicate to your apprenticeship. So, and they were quite flexible in that. But sometimes, like the 6 hours is actually included in the work you're doing anyway, because it's part of the job. So,
Are you actually being are you doing some kind of formal bit of training then? And how was the training done?
yeah. So the training for me was it we had was it I think it was 5 one-day workshops on teams where we went through material relating to the APM PMQ. Then we had a 2-day exam preparation workshop, and then I had regular meetups with it was called a teaching assessor from the training organization. where it's generally like once a month, around once a month, where we catch up and go through things. Um,
Okay. And are you seeing these people like face to face, or are you doing it like virtually?
Mine was all done virtually, so everything, even the exam I did was done virtually as well. So it was
Right.
all virtually, but obviously within the workplace itself, there was things I had to do in person. So
Okay. So when you said that you'd passed your apprenticeship, um, what is that? What have you? Is it just an exam, or is it an accumulation of stuff that you've been doing, or how does it?
um, so to the at the end of your apprenticeship, I believe it's for all apprenticeships, you've got something called an EPA, which stands for Endpoint Assessment. And these vary slightly depending on the apprenticeship. But for mine personally, it involved a presentation section, which was approximately 20 minutes presentation and 20 minutes questions and answers on 5 of the 15 topics. And then the other 10 topics were covered in a 1 hour professional discussion.
Okay.
And mine was open, like, well, wouldn't say open book, but open notes where you could look at all the material you've submitted
Right.
to support
Right.
your portfolio.
Are you doing it? Do you get the chance to meet other people that are also doing the apprenticeship, or is it just you're very much just doing it with a trainer, teacher?
Yeah, but as I said, it's one of those like I've met them on Teams, and there's some of them I've remained in contact with and like just messaging now and again, but I haven't met anyone else in person that I've done it with. So, but I've yeah, so
You should invite them down to the flash mob.
so,
And
but well, I'm just trying to think were any of them like PMO practitioners. There was quite a few project manager or junior associate project managers in the course I did. So
yeah, so I was gonna say, I mean, it's interesting to a project management one. I mean, the other apprenticeship that I do know of that is good for people that are working in PMO is the one that's all around project data analytics, which has
yeah,
got various levels for that as well. And if anybody who's interested, you can go and check that out through Projection Success is the company that I would do the project hack that kind of do that apprenticeship as well, which is obviously another way to do it. But how did you find doing that against like the day work and stuff? Was it could you handle it easily, or did it get to a point where there's bits where it's quite stressful? Was a lot going on, or
yeah. So basically, what I did was like because obviously, ideally, you spend 6 hours, but like the not always you can spend 6 hours. So so there are certain times of the year. So early January, as an example, was a quieter time at work for me. So that's when I did my exam. And I give myself um like time so I could prepare for it. And then also early August, I knew wouldn't be usually wasn't as busy at work. So that's when I did the endpoint assessment. So it's kind of any key deadlines was I tried to do them whenever I knew I wouldn't be as busy at work. So and just managed everything else I could. Um but as well the learning was quite flexible as well, so I did like podcasts and stuff, listen to that because obviously you go for a walk, that's quite useful. So yeah.
so is anybody tempted who's been listening to Stuart talking about this today? I mean, it's sorry, Shane, who's been, has anybody been thought about maybe doing an apprenticeship, or actually you've not given it much thought before, but you might actually start to look into something like this? It seems to be a good way for a professional development, but it's not just that training course where you're only doing it for 3 days and then, I'm assuming doing it over a period of time like this, that you're more likely to be able to embed your learning and you'd start to utilize it more in the workplace.
So well, it's yeah, it's one of those definitely because mine was like minimum of a year to do it. It had to be done within 12 to 18 months, I believe it was. So
Right. Yeah. And Stuart asked the question, so what next? What else are you going to do? Because I know
uh,
you enjoy learning quite a lot. So what else do you think you might do?
Uh, I'll possibly consider looking into the chartership as a project professional potentially down the line. Might consider doing that. So
And for
um,
anybody who's not familiar, if you take a look at the Association for Project Management, that's what you're referring to. So the
Yeah.
Any questions for Shane, John, or Eileen after listening to that? And I've got a dog that's getting. See?
No, I just think the apprenticeships, it'll be interesting to see again, you know, that the world continues to change about the way now the organisations support learning and development. So getting somebody in doing that training while you're working. And I think, as you pointed out, Shane, the benefit of actually having to produce evidence that you've actually done the thing rather than read a textbook and write about, I could fill out a risk register, I know what goes in every column, is very different to see, here I've done one. So that kind of bringing of evidence, I think, is a great way to reinforce the learning and truly assess that people can do the job. So I think that, you know, apprenticeships to me are a great way, you know, great, not that you would ever want to leave your current employer, Shane, but it's a great way to say, you know, look, not only have I got a qualification that says I know about it, I actually can do it as well.
Yeah, no, because that's a good point, Eileen. Because I remember my very first professional discussion as part of the apprenticeship. The teaching assessor stopped the conversation after a couple of minutes and goes, "I can see you know this stuff from a knowledge perspective, but where's the evidence in the workplace?"
Yep.
And so we, instead of having an hour call, we had a 5 minute call, and then I went away, redid my presentation prep with actual evidence from the workplace. So,
and I think as well, you know, we've talked about a few times on this session about the 70-20-10, about 70% of your learning is actually kind of doing things rather than learning about things. And I think what it does, it puts a real emphasis on your manager and you as an individual to have a conversation with your manager and say, look, I need to get experience of these things over the next 18 months because I'm doing this qualification. But also, you know, if we're a PMO manager, we should be thinking about, you know, kind of our people who work for us and say, how do we actually give people that experience rather than just sending them on a course to kind of learn about stuff.